Oh dear, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh dear. Alright. Ah, it is a copper. Oh, fucking bollocks, man. Just stopped off for some petrol, just so we got a full tank, so we don't have to worry about finding petrol stations along the way, because I'm not gonna know where I am in a bit. So, and I want to go and explore lanes, so usually there's no petrol stations around there. But anyway, could have a little chat about why I love superbikes so much. Maybe, yeah, I get asked sometimes, oh, what was your first bike? And sometimes I get a reaction that I'm expecting, like, oh yeah, cool, and then sometimes I get a like, oh, that's not very sensible, blah 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 blah. Like, just for a start, like, riding a motorbike is not sensible. Yeah, sensible thing is to drive a fucking car, so your argument's flawed already. But yeah, so my first motorbike after passing my full license was a 2007 CBR 600RR called Hulk. Love that bike, that was great, but had to go, had some problems with it. But I had him for a good couple of weeks, and that was always my dream bike to get, so I was very happy with that. But then Hulk number 2 come along, and when I saw it for sale and I looked into the bike, I was like, yeah, like this, oh nice, you know what I mean? I was like, this is a good fit. Like, this is a good fit, because as much as I love the Honda, right, the one thing that I felt was a bit lacking was power. Yeah, so I thought that everything was great about the car apart from the power it had. So, you know, like, it revved up to the moon, you know, that's fucking awesome, loved that so much, like, screaming around like a hooligan, like, brilliant. Yeah, sounded great, loved it, right? But yeah, I just felt that it didn't have enough on the top end that I wanted. So, like, with Hulk currently, we get to about 170 and it's just it just hits a flat spot, and it's not about gearing as much, it's about the power. It doesn't have the, you know, power to go that little bit more. So, you know, like, I felt looking at this bike, okay, yeah, it was quite a bit older, but that didn't matter to me. Like, I don't, when I was looking at a bike, I don't need, like, oh, it has to have ABS and all this stuff. Like, I don't really care about that, because I've ridden, like, so many bikes and I've had cars with no ABS, so I understand how the brakes work and how to brake with a non-ABS system. So I feel very comfortable having a road bike with no ABS. So yeah, so it wasn't a requirement for me anyway. So getting this bike, 140 brake horsepower, slightly bigger engine, 750. I just felt like, yeah, this is, you know, the up in power that I wanted, going from, say, 115 average, depending what different people say. Some people say for the 600RR they're 115, some say they're 110, some say they're 120. So we'll just go in the middle, 115. And it is a quick bike. Like, you know, not counting top end, just acceleration up to say 140. It was a quick bike, and it was great fun to ride. It handled great, just as much as this bike does. This bike handles great. It's got great power, you know, the acceleration's good. But yeah, sometimes like when people ask me what my first bike was, and I tell them it was a super sport bike, like, oh, did you not think like you should start off on the lower cc bikes and work your way up? And I was like, nah, not at all. And this is going to sound quite arrogant, but it's facts. Like, because of my experience that I've had in life, I know that I can restrain. Like, if I was to jump on a 1000cc super bike for the first time, I can just like this, just poodle around on it. Like, I'm quite mature in the way I approach things. I can build up to things. Like, you know, when I first got this bike, I didn't go flat out everywhere. You know, I built up to it over the course of a week or two. I spent a lot of time practicing on it in car parks and out on the road at night when there's no traffic, and learning what the bike can do and how it handles, what the brakes are capable of, what the power is, where the power band kicks in, etc, etc. So, you know, I learnt the bike as much as I could, and yeah, so when I went out on the road and I opened up the throttle, it wasn't a surprise. I knew what the bike was going to do. So that is half the reason why I felt very comfortable after getting my license, and my first bike being a 600 super sport bike, because I knew, like, right, I can get this bike, I'll progressively work up to going flat out, and going flat out wasn't my goal. It was to explore and to have fun, and you know, those were the main things that I was concentrating on, rather than, oh, let's get the quickest bike I can and let's go and fucking rag it around. Like, no, that wasn't my goal. So yeah, and it was great getting a super sport bike to start with. It taught me a lot. Like, I learned quite a few lessons that I hadn't learned on my lesson, like on my exams. Like, the steering and stuff, and the position, the seating position. To start with, it felt really awkward because I had just spent a week on naked bikes. Yeah, the Kawasaki 600s that I've done the second part of my license on, they're naked bikes. They're not fairing, they don't have fairings on the bike. So I was very used to riding those, and before that I rode motocross bikes, so same sort of setup. So when I come to a bike that had fairings on it, and the pegs are up high, and the steering is, you know, turned in slightly, and it's, you know, you're leaning forward, you've got this tank right in front of you. It felt really awkward to begin with, and I'm quite a big bloke. Like, I'm 6'2", so I'm not the smallest of people. So for me, it felt very awkward. And I learned about clothing as well. Like, I used to have different boots. Like, I used to have boots that were sort of close to motorbike, like motocross boots, but they were for road bikes. You know what I mean? It's a sort of like in between. But with those, because of how big my legs are and how high the pegs are, that really like put pressure on my legs on the back, and it was horrible. So I very quickly went and bought like ankle boots for road bikes, and ever since I got those, like, they're wicked. Like, I love them. They're not expensive, they're not, you know, but things don't need to be expensive for them to work well at all. I want to go that way. So I learned a lot about clothing as well, and practical clothing and clothing that just looks good, you know. So that was very important for me to figure out as well, because when you're doing your license, like, anything will really do realistically. Like, you're not doing hard riding, it's just pottering around town, which is fine. You know, you need to do your license, you need to rack up some hours on the bike, you need some experience, because I'd gone there from a position of being very comfortable with the clutch and accelerator, but I was paired with this kiddie who had never ridden a bike before, so that was quite odd. That, you know, you'd never ridden a bike before, but you're doing your full license. So I was like, man, that's mad. But yeah, like, he passed, which is cool. You know, I didn't want to see him fail, of course. I helped him a bit, you know, because it wasn't really fair on him, because, like, you know, anything the instructor told me to do on the first day in the car parks on the 125s, like, I could do everything. Like, I'm not just being big-headed, but that's because I've been riding motocross bikes from the age of 5 up till like 16, so 15, 16, so I was very sort of comfortable on a motorbike, and I was very comfortable with the power and the manoeuvring, clutch control, acceleration. You know, I was fine with it all. You know, I wasn't intimidated by it. I got it straight, you know, even though I hadn't ridden for a few years. Like, as soon as I sat my ass on that seat, it was just like, yeah, boom. Just muscle memory, I guess. Just come back, no problem. After getting my license, I was like, I already knew what bike I wanted before I even passed my tests. I knew what bike I wanted, and like, some people will be like, oh, well, you know, what did your parents think of that? Well, luckily for me, my parents are alright. Like, my mum, she doesn't like me doing dangerous things. Fair enough, she's a mum, yeah. However, she'd been used to me riding motorbikes for a good few years, and the trade-off we had with mum was that she was cool with us riding motorbikes if we always wore the protective clothing. So, you know, we always did. And I said to my mum, when I got my bike, I said to her, I said, oh, you know, I'll get the safest gear that I could afford, and I'll be sensible. Now, you know, yeah, okay, there's loads of videos of me whizzing around, speeding, doing 170 and stuff, but that is all calculated, and I've worked it out, and for me, that's safe. Like, I've worked it out, and I've gone, yep, I can do this. You know, overtaking, prime example, when I've overtaken like 4 cars and a lorry, because I know my bike so well, I can calculate, like, okay, I'm going to have this much time before that car gets to me, and I can accelerate up to this speed. I can overtake everyone and have 4 seconds, you know, coming in until the car goes past. So to me, that's fine, you know. So yeah, and my dad's like, he's always liked cars. He's had motorbikes himself, like road bikes, fast bikes. He grew up riding motocross bikes, so yeah, he understood, he got it, and he just said, you know, just please be careful. Like, yep. So yeah, it's all calm, and you know, my parents are both very happy for me riding bikes, because they know how happy it makes me, and as long as I'm happy, they're happy, as long as I'm being safe. So, you know, that's fine. Well, I never ride beyond my ability. That's one thing that I never do. Like I said, I build up to things. Like, a few people in the past have commented like, oh, you're not leaning the bike properly, and I think, okay, maybe from the perspective of the camera it doesn't look like I'm doing what you expect me to do. However, if you're correct, then I would crash and fall off, because if I'm not leaning the bike correctly, then the bike's not going to go round the fucking corner, is it? Like, people just say stupid things just to say something half the time, but I don't know. But yeah, so getting a super bike for my first bike was wicked. So much fun, so much fun. Not only was it cool riding around on a fucking crotch rocket that can do like over 150, but it was just cool getting out on two wheels, exploring, filming, going different places, getting out a lot more. What a dickhead. You know, so yeah, like I wouldn't go out in my car to some places, but I will get on my bike and go other places. So, you know, it's cool, and I film it as well because I like to film for my own memory, and as well I like for my family and my friends to see what I'm up to. This road looks nice. So I like for my friends and family to see what I'm up to. Oh wow, that's a wicked view. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop here. I like that. I like that a lot, eh? Yeah, we'll get some good photos here. We'll get some good photos.